On count 1, violation of the Georgia RICO Act, 20 years to serve in confinement. On count 10, life in confinement.
It's looking grim for Cash App. The rapper just received a 70-year sentence. And to make things worse, new footage of him behind bars has surfaced. Let's just say surviving a year there would be a miracle. What caused such a drastic fall? And why does it seem like his story ends here? I've got all the details. Let's break it down. The trial ended with a life sentence. Cash Out, once seen as a rising star in hip-hop, is now in serious trouble. He was hit with multiple severe charges, including racketeering, aggravated sodomy, and unlawful restraint. He's accused of running a human trafficking ring that exploited several women across Atlanta. On June 2, 2025, he faced judgment in Fulton County Superior Court before Judge Melanie Leftridge over the next 7 weeks. The public witnessed just how vast this alleged operation really was. Inside the courtroom, prosecutors presented next-level evidence, claiming Cash Out led a criminal enterprise more advanced than anyone on the streets could have guessed. The case led by Fulton County Deputy District Attorney Ernal Winfrey came prepared and serious. They arrived in court with what they called an airtight case, built on layers of proof few defense teams could challenge. The evidence was massive. We're talking text messages from 8 phones, jail calls, call logs, financial records, surveillance video, and victim statements. This level of detailed casework showed investigators had tracked the alleged operation from every angle, weaving a net of proof nearly impossible to break. The strongest part of the prosecution's case came from the victims themselves. These weren't just random claims. They were detailed stories of alleged ongoing abuse that revealed what these women reportedly endured. One of the most damaging, the statements came from Cash Out's ex-girlfriend who said he made her sleep with men for money while they were still together. The emotional weight of these testimonies hit the courtroom hard. One woman said she was only fed if she performed commercial acts showing what prosecutors called a control system that weaponized basic survival needs. That level of psychological manipulation goes far beyond street hustling. It's calculated predator behavior.
These defendants chose to commit these crimes against me. They gave me a life sentence. Even though we restored her body, we have been unsuccessful in saving and healing the person because of the trauma that these animals deliver.
The prosecution's main argument was that this wasn't just a rapper gone rogue committing isolated crimes. They claimed it was a 7-year reign of terror, organized, systematic, and deeply harmful to all involved. Prosecutor Ernal Winfrey stressed this wasn't simple pimping but trafficking, pointing out that the crimes reflected structured exploitation, not some street-level hustle. Cash Out's defense team, led by attorney Curtin R. Matthews, faced an uphill battle pushing back on the evidence. Their plan was to attack witness credibility and question the prosecution's interpretation of the facts. Matthews claimed that the state couldn't prove a criminal enterprise existed and argued the RICO charges were exaggerated. The defense aimed to weaken the case by pointing out inconsistencies in the accuser's stories, noting that some victims had willingly reconnected with Cash Out and contradicted past statements. They also slammed the prosecution for what they called overcharging, stacking conflicting counts for the same events, and relying on co-defendants who got plea deals for testifying. But by July 18, 2025, none of those arguments held up under the weight of the prosecution's evidence. After 7 weeks of testimony, a Fulton County jury found Cash Out guilty on multiple serious charges. Convictions included aggravated sodomy, 2 counts of trafficking for sexual servitude, RICO violations, pimping, pandering, keeping a place of prostitution, battery, firearm possession during a felony, obstruction, and contraband. Notably, was acquitted on some charges: 1 count of felony aggravated assault, 1 trafficking charge, and 1 for maintaining a place of prostitution. Those acquittals showed the jury took their job seriously, weighing each charge instead of rubber stamping everything, making the guilty verdicts hit even harder. His co-defendants faced major consequences, too. Linda Smith was convicted on trafficking and RICO counts, while Tyrone Taylor was found guilty of nearly everything except pimping, including aggravated sodomy and RICO violations. One juror, speaking anonymously to WSB-TV, admitted the decision was tough but said the evidence was strong. They explained that the jury went through all 46 counts carefully, charge by charge, and that the phone records and victim stories clearly pointed to guilt. 3 days later, on July 21, 2025, Judge Melanie Leftridge gave the sentence that sealed Cash Out's fate. Her ruling reflected not only how serious the crimes were, but also delivered a message about the consequences of using fame and power to allegedly exploit others.
Ladies and gentlemen, during the course of this trial, the court heard and viewed evidence demonstrating the very worst of human behavior toward other human beings. The jury verdict in this case reflects that the state met its burden in proving beyond a reasonable doubt that the diabolical conduct of the defendants occurred. The sentencing to be meted out by this court will be responsive to that.
hOut got hit with life in prison for the charge, plus an additional 70 years for RICO and other convictions, all running concurrently. When the judge broke down the sentencing, it was clear this was game over for hOut.
Mr. John Michael Hakeem Gibson, would you please stand? On count 1, violation of the Georgia RICO Act, 20 years to serve in confinement to run consecutive with count 10. On count 10, life in confinement. Count 12, aggravated sodomy, life in confinement to run concurrent with count 10.
His family members were hit with heavy sentences. Linda Smith received 30 years 24 RICO and 10 for trafficking to be served consecutively, while Tyrone Taylor got life plus 70 years.
Count 22, trafficking a person for servitude, 20 years to serve in confinement to run consecutive with count 1. Count 23, trafficking a person for servitude, 20 years to serve in confinement to run consecutive with count 22. Count 24, on the lesser included offense of battery, 12 months to serve in confinement to run concurrent with count 10. Count 25, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, 5 years to serve in confinement to run consecutive with count 23.
The judge also imposed lifelong restrictions on all the defendants. They were required to register as offenders, barred from contacting victims or their families, and banned from certain areas in Metro Atlanta, including Fulton Industrial Boulevard.
Conditions of this sentence: no contact with any of the victims named in the indictment, to include Diamond Irvin or their families. You are to register as a defendant. You are to stay away from 737 Alfred Road in Atlanta.
Despite all the evidence in the jury's verdict, hOut still refused to take responsibility. During his sentencing, he insisted he was innocent and compared himself to biblical figures, claiming he was being falsely accused like Jesus and other prophets.
I want to start out by thanking you for giving us a fair trial. I want to thank the jurors for the amount of time that they put in to judge this trial. This time being on this trial, I was able to see how the jurors are put in a tough position to, sit there and judge someone's life. And, it's a hard decision, and I feel like they made the wrong judgment. I've done things in my life, I'm not perfect. But the things I've been accused of, I know that I haven't done those things. I know it's typical for a person to come up here and, show remorse to, crimes that they have done, but I can only show remorse to the people that I know that was in this trial, which is not remorse on behalf of like I did anything to them. Because if you know me, people who really know that I won't force anybody to do anything.
hOut continued to cast himself as the victim, claiming witnesses were pressured to testify and that people were pushed to blame him simply because of his success.
I get the situations that people are put in when they're faced with a certain type of crime or a certain type of time, and they're bullied into this situation to put the blame on someone, or to put the blame on hOut, or to put the blame on someone who's at the top. That's why I didn't really fault them for their decision. It's baffling. never forced a woman to commit a sexual act. Never. I've been traveling all around the world from here to Dubai, and you would never hear a woman say that I forced them to do anything or commit with anybody. I don't hang around people that do things of that nature.